What's up, everyone? So let's talk about airgun ping. Actually, I get quite a few people asking me how the ping is on the Vulcan 3, and that's kind of a loaded question, to be honest. You know, we have, I guess, memories of other rifles that we can kind of compare it to, but it's not really a valid assessment. And everybody will say, well, it's pretty bad, or it's not that bad, and that's kind of subjective. So, you know, if we look at like airgun moderators, we have sound devices that can pick that up in dB. And you can kind of get a rough assessment for how loud the gun is stock and with the moderator and all that. But when it kind of comes down to the vibration and the ping in the rifle, that's very difficult to kind of give people a direct answer. So kind of digging back to my engineering days, yeah, kind of figured I'd pull up an oscilloscope, and there's some vibration sensors that you can kind of pick up here, like this little guy. And I'll give you kind of the theory of what I'm thinking, because yeah, you know, airgun vibration, that ping is the slap, the ping, whatever you want to call it, is kind of a big deal. Actually, they sell, this is for the Condor, this is an anti-slap device. And I've done some measurements with how loud things are in the Condor, and once I install this, I'm kind of curious of if it cleans some things up. But I'll give you a walkthrough. I'll give you a couple examples of how this works out. So you have a sensor that generates, voltage off of any kind of impact, any kind of vibration. So if we look over here on the O scope, we have, I think, a half-second timeline or something. But if I tap it, you'll see some altercations, some voltage going in, and it picks it up. Now there's three things that we can kind of measure. Do they really say that much about it? Well, I guess when you're comparing apples to apples, and let's say another air gun, you want to know how loud it is, or how hard the strike is, or how long it lasts. There's the frequency, which is kind of debatable. When I was comparing against the Condor versus this, it said this was like 12 hertz or 15, 16 hertz, and the Condor was 25 to 30 hertz, which really isn't that big a difference, but there's some physics and everything behind that. But that's really not the other one is the voltage, kind of the voltage going in. Like the harder I strike the sensor, the larger the wave going up, right? That kind of gives you an indication of maybe the hammer strike or anything else that's going on, like the vibration. But then there's the other element. The third element is duration, the time. Like how many milliseconds is that? So if you hit a tuning fork, what does it do? It goes up really loud, and it slowly kind of comes down. The amplitude of it just slowly kind of fades in there. And that's kind of like a ping. You know, when this gun fires off, it's like ting, and then it kind of just slowly goes down. Well, that's some indication for someone, like how bad's the ping? Well, how long does it last? You know, some are really short, and I'll give you kind of an indication here. We'll kind of cock this back, see if we can do this. I'm gonna guesstimate this because I gotta stop it. And I'm gonna fire this dude, and we'll wait till that kind of comes back. All right, we're gonna freeze that. So that spike is kind of how much voltage and everything that kind of came through here. If we look at it, I can kind of sum this up a few different ways. For the Vulcan, we're looking at like a strike of, again, the voltage doesn't really matter. I think it's anywhere from 1 volt to about 600 millivolts. The frequency is roughly around 12 to 20, 12 to 16. And then the duration, that's how long this kind of lasts here, as far as how far it goes, how long that vibration lasts in this area. It's around 80 milliseconds, 60 to 80 milliseconds. In comparison against my Condor, kind of the same test, that was about 40 milliseconds. A little bit more on the voltage, because that's a heavier gun. It strikes harder. And then I guess the frequency was right around 25 hertz. Now, you can throw a lot of this off, but if we're looking at just how hard you kind of feel the strike and how long that vibration lasts, you can kind of derive, you know, apples to apples for the ping in the rifle, what you're going to feel. Because a lot of times you put your head against this, and that's what this sensor is doing, essentially picking up the duration of the vibration and then the amplitude. How high is it going? How much volts is it doing? So I'm going to do a bunch of other tests. I'm comparing the three calibers with this along with my Condors and my day states. And that's kind of one of the reasons why, if you look at the traditional rifles like the day state Red Wolf or even the FX Crown, your head is resting against like a wood stock. There's none of this business right up next to it. So I myself am kind of sensitive to rifles. I like the pleasant shooting of a rifle, and maybe we'll just call this, I guess how shooter friendly is it? Is it a rifle you want to shoot a lot? One of the worst rifles that to me shooting was the Benjamin Bulldog. It had a ping that was insane. Like literally you needed something ear protection, because as soon as you put it in here, you had this massive ringing and big shot of noise right in your ear. And that's just not fun, So if you're looking for a rifle, maybe we can use this kind of measurement moving forward with a bunch of other things to see how bad it is. If you're looking for a bullpup, because obviously bullpups are more sensitive to this because your head is right like on the action versus a regular rifle. But that's just one way, guys. And looking at some of the screenshots I've shown you on the measurements and that, I kind of want to know what your feelings. The thing is, we got to have some kind of measurement. You got dB, maybe voltage in, maybe the time that something is resonating or vibrating is somewhat of an indication, trying to get something with apples to apples. But if you got comments, questions, write them down below, answer, and see you next week.